In to Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette, where your hosts, Annette Harris, analyze intriguing life questions and concerns, such as, do Christians suffer from mental illness? Have you wondered why they act abnormal? Or you may ask, what is really going on in their minds? Do you need Annette? Well, keep listening for a biblical understanding of the psychology of the mind.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to another session of Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette. And I am your host, Annette Harris. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for listening on today. Of course, before we go further, I must acknowledge the Lord in prayer. Lord, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for the bright sunshine, and we appreciate you for allowing us to still be here another day. We are grateful. And the session that we have planned out, we pray that you would get the glory out of whatever we go to say and to do on today. And our opening scripture is the first part of Hosea 4 and 6, and it simply states, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because thou hast rejected knowledge, I will also reject thee. And again, we are grateful to be here. And today, I must acknowledge it is a wonderful day. Many recognize it as, uh, first they recognize it as Hump Day, but the special day is it is Valentine's Day on today. So I would like to give a shout out and say Happy Valentine's Day to all of you. We appreciate you for joining us on today. There are three different ways that you can listen to us on today. Setting the house in order, you could go to IntellectualRadio.com. That is IntellectualRadio.com. This is where we are airing live in the studio. And then also you can go to YouTube. Go to YouTube if you would at this time. You can type in Intellectual Radio and you will find Mind, Body, and Soul on live at this present time. And then also I have a Facebook live feed going on my Annette, known as Annette, Facebook page. And if you do go to that, I do request that you would like and share. Please like and share. We would really appreciate it because we do want to get today's session out to as many as we can. So I believe that my caller is on the line that is going to help with today's session. And I'm going to patch them in. Good afternoon, Mind, Body, and Soul.
Can you hear me?
I can. Who am I speaking to?
This is Chris calling in.
Okay. All right. Great. Yes, I can hear you. You probably still traveling.
Nope, I made it. I made it to the house, so I'm relaxing.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Chris Davenport is the wonderful founder and also host of Vibes. It is a TV show. He is stationed, I shouldn't say stationed, he's in Arizona. Like you're in the military, but he's not in the military, guys. I just said that. But he's in Arizona. Is it Glendale?
I'm in Phoenix.
You're in Phoenix? Okay, he's in Phoenix. Okay, I saw Glendale on something before. But anyway, he is, I call him a millennial, one that is actually out there doing a great work, has a TV show, and he has been blessed to go many places. You know what, Chris, let's do this right now. Tell my listeners a little bit about yourself. I did solicit Chris to assist me last week, this week, and next week with the Black or African American History series that we are doing. And if you can tell my listeners a little bit about yourself.
No problem. So like you said, I'm out here in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm really originally from there, in Chicago. But what we're doing with Vibes, it's a panel discussion talk show. So if you could imagine a Culture Tonight show or a 21st Century Arsenio Hall type show, but with more of a message. We want to bring people together on topics that we really find controversial, that we really have a hard time being transparent on. And not so much as to say who's right, because that's what I feel like a lot of the problem is. Everybody wants to be right. Just to understand perception. So if me and you don't get along, if we can sit down and understand why you are the way you are versus what you're doing, if I can understand who you are and why you think the way you do, it makes dealing with you and working with you and collaborating with you a little different. We got friends all the time. We say, oh, that's just Chris. That's how he is. We don't even get offended because we understand why he is the way he is. And so that's kind of what the show is about. And we try to make it fun and interesting. And, we hit the streets and ask people questions. And we're just having a great time with it. And we're really looking to just find ways to just bring us together,
That's
without
beautiful.
trying to be, the most.
Well, I appreciate that, because, when you look at it, on a whole, we all should appreciate what your effort is and what you are doing. And I tell you all the time how proud I am of you. I really am. I really am. It's not just words.
No. I just want to see more of us on TV doing this type of thing. I mean, you see us all the time on hip hop shows. You see us on drama shows. You see us on the Jerry Springers. You see us everywhere, but someplace that's making impact. So
definitely. Well, you're doing it with the help of the Lord. You're doing it, and your beautiful wife. I did see her just come on the Facebook Live. Hello, Renee. Good to have you on. And she's
happy Valentine's Day, wife. I love you.
Oh, that's cute. He's really pumping it up now.
You got to get it in when you can. Okay?
That's right. That's right. And the two of you work so well together. And that's something that, and we're going to be talking about that on today as well. Because we are, just to let everyone know what the series topic title is, Cultivating a Pragmatic African American Culture. Cultivating a Pragmatic African American Culture. And I know that in our video that Demetria created, I think she did put the definition of pragmatic, because, so many don't understand what we're saying when we talk about pragmatic. So let's do a definition of that. Again, this is the actual the series topic, Cultivating a Pragmatic African American Culture. Pragmatic here says that you're dealing with things sensibly and realistically in a way that is based on practical rather than theoretical considerations. And, you're doing that even with your TV show,
Absolutely.
And so we want to look at, our culture, and then see, basically, last week we addressed, what the problem is, where did this come from? We had a very hot session last Wednesday.
We did.
And it continued on after the actual radio show ended. We had in the studio our guest, Demetria Brand Triplet, Kenyatta Humphrey, and then also her daughter, Kayana. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. And on the phone, of course, we had yourself, and then Minister Felix was on the line. And we were able to hear from, actually a wide range of ages, age groups, and then, the different areas that we are in. And I think it was a good start to the series. I believe it was. And so on this week, our subtopic is going to be how we can come together for a common cause. As we look back in history, from, with our African American community, our culture, there was unity, but probably more than now that we can, pull out or see the different parts. It seemed like they came together more. And then this is my thought and my opinion. It seemed like they came together more. So we're looking at that, but then we want to see how we can bring that back, how we can come together, for a common cause. I am going to very shortly have my producer play a clip. It is actually, what I'm going to have him do is, and I'll cue him as to when to start and stop it, because it's not very long, but I'm going to play a portion of it and then come back and play the remainder of it, probably towards the end of the show. or as we go along, because I want to address this. And, it's really something when this individual, this young lady, she actually did a, what do you call it? Help me, Chris. I'm trying to look for the word. She did a, I'm sorry?
TED Talk.
Okay. Yeah. And so she went around to different businesses in the community, and she was trying to see if there were any African American businesses, and she was trying to show us what is and what isn't out there, for African Americans. She talked about the various businesses that had started and unfortunately had to stop because of the lack of support. So this is really something. It kind of blew my mind when I was listening to it. I think that I may have seen it on someone's Facebook page, and it's really something I think you all need to hear. And let's see, before he does that, let me just give a shout out real quick. Beatrice Carter, I do see you on. Thanks for joining us. And I believe I saw Camilla Foster. Thank you for joining us. Daintree McFadden, thank you for joining us. James, Jock Harding, thank you. I don't want to miss anybody, so we'll come back as you all come in. Anthony Reddick, good to have you on as well. So when you all come in, if you can do me a humongous favor on this Facebook Live, please like and share. Like and share so that we can get this session out to as many individuals on Facebook as we can. So I was trying to set it up with is that the actual title? Is it called TED Talk? I think it's something else.
No, I don't think it would. I can't. I'm trying to.
I'm sorry, what was that again? Why don't Black people support Black businesses? That is the title of this clip. Why don't Black people support Black businesses? And this is, again, something that I think we all need to take a listen to. And when we come back, Chris and I are going to talk about this. I want to hear your input. You can throw your comments in on the Facebook Live feed, and so we can try and analyze this clip on today. So take a listen to this.
I come from a Cuban family. I grew up in Miami, but I grew up in a predominantly Black, very poor neighborhood in Miami called Liberty City. From there, I went on to Atlanta, studied at Emory University, and had the honor of being a congressional aide to civil rights hero Congressman John Lewis. And after that, I went to Chicago and got my MBA and my law degree at the University of Chicago, where I also got to learn from another hero of mine, taught constitutional law by then Professor Barack Obama, and now the President of the United States. We fell in love while we were in graduate school. Now that's John and I, not the President and I. We found great success in corporate America, got married, bought our pretty house in our pretty suburb, had our 2 pretty little girls, and we're living out our picture-perfect, comfortable Cosby life. But when we analyzed the rest of the Black community, we saw that things were getting worse and worse for most Black people. We felt guilty about that. We felt bad about that. So we gave more to our Black church. We gave more to the NAACP and the UNCF. Wasn't that enough? Philanthropy is commendable, but it must not cause a philanthropist to overlook the circumstances of economic injustice which make philanthropy necessary. Dr. Martin Luther King said that. Now, what is this economic injustice he was talking about? What are these circumstances he was talking about? In America, in the Asian community, the dollar circulates among the community's banks and retailers and professionals for about 28 days before it leaves the community. In Jewish communities, that circulation period is about 19 days. In WASP communities, predominantly white areas, if you will, the dollar stays 17 days. My Hispanic brothers and sisters keep their dollar for about a week. And in the Black community, the community Dr. King was slain fighting for, we keep our dollar for 6 hours. Let me tell you what that means in real life terms. That means in Asian communities, Asian kids get to see business owners who look like them every day, all the time. There are Asian banks and insurance companies and grocery stores all over the community, and those businesses employ from the community, and the families take care of those businesses and vice versa. Asian unemployment in America is at a low 4 to 5%. Most Asian Americans, over 50%, are self-employed or employed by Asian firms. That those circumstances, that economic and business growth, lead to high educational attainment. There's business and political power, low poverty, strong businesses, low crime in Asian neighborhoods. 6 hours in the Black community. Let me tell you what that means. That means that Black kids can't see business owners who look like them every day. There are no Black-owned grocery stores and dry cleaners and pharmacies and clothing stores locally owned in the Black community. So the people there cannot get jobs, much less create jobs in the community. So Black unemployment in places like Detroit, Gary, and Oakland, sometimes 40%. And those circumstances lead to social problems like recidivism, high crime, high gang and drug activity, poverty. That's what's going on with those 6 hours. And those disparities cause the same kind of problems in the corporate space. 60% of the money that is spent with Asian suppliers in corporate America, so your Asian professional firms, Asian products you see on the shelves, used to be spent with Black-owned businesses. And the same kind of shift has happened between Hispanic businesses and Black-owned businesses. That's why when you go into a grocery store, you'll see whole aisles full of products coming from Asian companies, from Hispanic companies. So let's go to the grocery store or the drugstore and see where the Black-oriented products are. You go there, you'll see products like these. You'll see Spout and Wave and Less Jam and Smooth and Shine and Dark and Lovely and Strength of Nature and Dark and Natural and Stay Soft Fro. All those products that only Black people buy every day. 100% Black market. All those products are owned by L'Oreal, the company out of France. All those billions of dollars leave the Black community. Some of that money could come back if L'Oreal had supplier diversity, if L'Oreal was doing any business with Black-owned firms. L'Oreal only has Black buyers, no Black suppliers. Same deal with Hennessy. Hennessy, Wall Street Journal estimates between 60 to 80% of Hennessy's U.S. market comes from the Black community. That means that Hennessy closes down tomorrow without Black consumers. Billions and billions of dollars going outside of the community. Hennessy has no Black distributors, no Black suppliers, does not advertise in Black-owned media or use Black-owned advertising agencies. So, bottom line, most of the businesses in Black areas are not Black-owned. Most of the products catering to Black culture don't come from Black companies. Black unemployment is highest among any group in America. Black firms are the highest employer of Black people. So I can give you more. Chicago, 60 KFC franchises, most of them full of Black people and Black money every day. None of them owned by Black franchisees. I'm just trying to give you this picture of the circumstances of economic injustice Dr. King referred to. And what I hope we can do is I can get you to understand that if this is the picture of economic injustice he was thinking about, can we look at the opportunity or maybe the duty or at least the right to do something about that economic injustice? All kind of folks rally if a white racist shoots an unarmed Black teen. And then we protest a legal system that would let that killer go free. Now, will we rally? Will we come together if that unarmed Black boy gets shot by a Black gangbanger? And that happens because that Black boy.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Every time I hear that clip, it does something to me. And we're going to play the rest of it, in a little bit. But I want to stop right here and kind of analyze. Thank you, Renee, for letting me know you can hear the video that was playing. Chris.
Yeah.
She first started talking about our money and how long the money stays, because she broke it down for us, how long the money stays in different cultures. And it got down to Blacks, and the money stays with us for only 6 hours. Did you catch the other ones, Chris?
Yeah. I think one was like seven. It started from like 17 days down to. It was bad. The 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 first part I thought about when I was hearing that was that we have to be intentional, right? Like first I thought like, man, maybe it's just convenience. But then as she explained how we don't even own the things within our community, right? Everybody buys the stuff that's right in their community. So if we don't have the ownership of the things in the community, then of course it's only going to how long do you hold your check in your pocket before you start spending money, right?
True.
But if we're intentional about where we spend our money, just like everything else we do, and even on Valentine's Day, we've been talking about this big love and doing things in love. Even last week, right? We were talking about how you got to just approach people with love, but love is intentional. It's on purpose. I didn't accidentally love you. I have to choose every day. So every day, we as a people, we have to make a choice to say, okay, look, I got $20. I got $100 to spend. Where can I spend it that benefits us? I think the problem looks so big sometimes that we just think that our couple bucks won't matter. That, the same way they treat voting and, our politics.
Right. That's true. And I like that and how you started off. We have to be intentional. And I think that's key. When I was doing my pre-show, there were comments, and when I get a chance, I'm going to go back to it. That was kind of saying the same thing that you're talking about being intentional. It talked about group building, and I think that if we start off with that mindset, the mindset of being intentional, I think that we can navigate through. We should be able to get to this point. But I'm sure that there have been many videos and talks, such as what we've just heard. And as she goes further on talking, there was one thing that she said that grabbed my attention. She said, I believe that her mother or grandmother, I can't remember, had actually been diagnosed with cancer during the time that she was doing this particular experiment. So I'll call it experiment, quote unquote. And when she found out that her loved one had been diagnosed and had only been given to live, she wanted to shut the whole project down. But her mother told her, no, you need to continue on with this. You need to do this. So she did it, at the unctioning and encouragement of her mother. She continued on with the project. So I believe her mother passed 1 month after she had started the project. And then she said she had to live with herself and with the thoughts after her mother passed that, did I just waste a whole year doing this project when I could have been spending that time with my mom in her last days on something that people probably won't even adhere to? The change may not even be made.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? That this is what she brought out. And I can understand her even asking that question. Because again, as I preempted this by saying there have been many videos and individuals talking about this. This is not just because it's on Mind, Body, and Soul. It's not the first time we've heard something like this. So now what? What do we take this and run with it, or do we bury it?
It goes back to that intentional thing, and that is almost a defeated mentality, right? That we have. Like I was saying, that what I'm doing isn't gonna matter. That little old me, that woe is that second guessing of surety, that second guessing of the fact. Like the fact is that what she was putting together was needed, and that's what her mother understood. Even in her sickness, knowing if nobody knows her daughter, nobody knew her, her mother knew her, and her mother knew how she would have felt. And her mother, in her condition, understood at her age that this was important. And so we as a younger generation have to understand, and that's why they were able to come together like they were. That's why they were able to, even though there's 50 strong men in a circle, those 50 strong, 49 of those strong men were able to say, we'll let this one man lead us. We didn't need 3 kings at the top. Everybody's input was we're still all on the same level. Being a king doesn't mean that you're really a king is a servant. So who wants to serve the most? Whoever wants to serve the most, and that's what she was speaking about, the Jewish communities and the Asian communities. They want to serve each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree.
They accommodate the need.
Right. Yeah, I like that. And, she was even touching on some of the things we talked about last week in terms of, when they come over to the United States, some come for school, some come to work, but then where does their money go? It's been sent back home. It's not given to us over here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because they understood that concept that she was explaining long ago. And it goes back to even what I mentioned, I think last week was, we talk to our kids about you need to be an entrepreneur, you need to make something for yourself. I tell my kids, be an entrepreneur, work for yourself, create a job. But we don't show them how to support entrepreneurs.
Whoa.
Right?
Whoa.
Right? So
wait,
I'm
Chris,
telling them how to,
Chris, stop right there. That was a simple yet profound statement you just said. Simple yet profound. We don't encourage them how to support. And that's really the whole basis for the series that we're doing. It really is. And I think we're going to have to give an account for this. What do you think? I think we are, but it's something, because we need to take that time out and teach them, as you've said.
Absolutely.
Take the time out and instruct them. I mean, you have you all have 3 babies? 3? Is it 3?
3.
Okay.
3.
And so you want them to do something. And, I've always heard it said that parents always want their children to do better than them. They should, unless it's, some kind of a situation where parent doesn't want their children to be better than them, but they should. And so then this is where it comes in at, like you said, when you instruct them, because it's so important. But I did cut you off in the middle of your sentence. Can you want to finish?
No. Yeah, I was just showing them how. So my kids should see me seeking out not only self-employment, but the self-employment of others. They should see me hiring people that look like them. They should understand the traditions and the values in support of one another. And a lot of times nowadays, it's just a me, myself, and I thing. And we're raised with it. You better get yours before they get, and it just hurts over and over, especially even in places like Chicago, man. People talk about how bad it is, and it is getting bad, I think. But if we don't understand that that's a signal of desperation. Desperate people will do anything. And if we don't give them something to feel that desperation, then we're just going to keep seeing it over and over.
Yeah. And
something that's yours, seeing your parents entrepreneur, seeing your parents build it is huge. And I can't think of one of my kids. They're 14, 15, and 11. My daughter's 11. None of them talk about jobs. All of them talk about what I want to do. One wants to bake for a living. One wants to do producing for a living. One wants to. He didn't even know what type of business he wants to own. He just said, I want to own businesses. I'm thinking hotels. What kind of 11-year-old talks about owning hotels?
Wow.
But you want to put it in them so that they know. And then they know that I can't do it alone. My dad had a whole team, and his team looked like him. I need a whole team. And I think my team should look like me.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Oh, you are really saying something here. That's what Brandy McCord says here on Facebook Live. She said he just said something. And I totally agree. Now, let me do this. Brandy also says here, taught how to be one, which is great. But what about how to support the entrepreneurs around them? That's what builds our community. So she's, kind of summarized what you said. I appreciate her for putting that up there. It is so, and as you're talking about your children and what their goals are and what they've said they want to do, I think that's admirable. I often hear, and I do hear this among the young people, about how they do want to become entrepreneurs, how they do want to own their own businesses. I hear it often. Even when I'm out here driving, for Uber and Lyft, sometimes I'll pick up high school children and they're going back and forth to school, and then we'll just get to talking, and if they're a senior or something, and I'll always ask them, and it doesn't matter what color, but like in our African American children, I'll ask them, okay, so what do you plan to do when you graduate? That's always my number one question. If anyone knows anything about this Uber driver, that's what I'm gonna ask you.
Right.
I'm like, okay, what are you gonna do when you graduate? Okay, well, now some of them I think they be making it up off the fly, but it's okay, because it to me it gets them to thinking. You know what I mean? About what I need to do. And then some of them, they'll come almost down to the wire. Okay, well, did you apply to the colleges? Did you? No, not yet, but I'm going to, or what have you. And then, but majority of them that I ask, what are you going to do after you graduate and what are you going to do in life? Majority of them tell me that they want to become an entrepreneur. They want to own their own business. So that goes, in conjunction with what you were just saying about your children. So that's beautiful. That's important. That's great. And we want to cultivate that. Yes. But then we don't want to miss that other part of what you just said about how we need to encourage them, how to support, the African American entrepreneurs, business owners, ministries, and authors, recording artists, or what have you. And, and you also said something that was important. You want them to see that you were hiring somebody else that looks like them. Absolutely. So that is key. That is very key. Let me, in case those of you that are just joining us that did not get a chance to hear the first part of that clip, we're going to go back to it, but let me read. I did find the actual, let's see, those statistics that she gave us. And of course, technology okay, here it is right here. It says, in America, in Asian communities, a dollar circulates among the community's banks, retailers, and business professionals for up to 28 days before it is spent with outsiders.
Wow.
In the Jewish community, the circulation period is 19 days. Wow. And predominantly, let's see, WASP areas. I think this, okay, so she had listed out 17 days. Hispanics keep their dollar for 7 days. But in the Black community, the dollar lives 6 hours.
I want to say this, and I don't mean to cut you off, but what, if you think about what we are spending our money on, right?
Right.
We buy Jordans, we buy lashes, we buy makeup, we buy Gucci belts, we buy fake sunglasses, we buy cars that we can't afford, we buy flat screen TVs, we buy everything that we don't even manufacture, that we don't even need. I don't even wear regular jewelry. I wear like beads and wood stones and rocks and stuff I know that we can make, that we are making at least. Wow. And it's not that there aren't Black-owned businesses that are making these things that we can support, but for the majority within our neighborhoods and within our communities, you know a lady who's the seamstress. She can make you the same dress you bought from Penny's. People know my mother. She can. So what can't my mother sew? What can't she make?
That's right. No, very good points.
But we'll
Very.
spend $200 for a dress that won't even last as long as something that you can go and get it back altered with her. But Penny's going to tell you, take it to the cleaners.
Yes, they will.
It's the small things that we, because that's how much of your income is that really? If you spent $300 on a new outfit when you could have went to Sister Cheryl, who would have made it for $150.
Right. And that way you're pouring back. You're pouring back.
Right back. And you still got exactly what you wanted. It's intentional.
I like that. Yeah. The word of the day is intentional, in case you guys did not know. Intentional. I love this. Coming together for a common cause. Let me read this comment from Minister Felix. Again, we thank him for his time on last week. He says here, Black people don't trust each other enough to pull their money together and open a franchise. We are beaten down mentally. We feel material things bring happiness and an illusion wealth, but we won't work together to obtain real wealth. Black parents, Black kids are taught to get out, and to get their own. Struggle to have our own way from the drama of away from the drama of family. The white, Asian, Mexican, and fake Jews stay home and attend school, build businesses together, and work together rather than what we do. We get out, get an apartment, get a car payment, spend money on designer clothes owned by whites or Asians, get our hair done, our feet done, lashes done with the Asians that are parked in our community. That dollar goes to Mexican tire shops, Mexican food restaurants. This boy is preaching. Our money leaves our community. He has in parentheses self-esteem. A pig is a part of the hippopotamus family. If given the environment to stay clean in water, pigs would do so. But when put in mud and a dirty environment, they are subject to that environment and the dangers therein. In parentheses, also again, ghettos, the projects that breeds drugs, death, and envy. I can almost shut the show down after that.
That was all of it.
That was all of it. And it's something, again, we have heard this time and time again, but when are we going to make that change? When are we going to do something about that? Because we're getting lost, and we don't want to look up one day and we just have no voice. We have nothing. And again, we're talking about African Americans. This African American History Month. This is what we're discussing on today. Let's see here. I think that I want to go ahead and take a quick break, and then we can come back. I do have more of that clip that I want the rest of my listeners to hear. This is good. I appreciate you all coming on and giving your input and your comments. I see my cousin Lewis on. Thank you for joining us. Buddy Gill, we are talking about coming together for a common cause. We want to see how we can push and promote our own. Our African American culture is becoming dilapidated. It's not where it needs to be, where it should be. And intentional is our word for today. So then if we are, that came from Chris Davenport. So if we are intentional in what we do and what we say and where we put our money and what I think we can overcome this. I really do. That's our topic kind of in a nutshell today, Buddy Gill. Let's go to this quick break. We'll come back for more Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette right here on Intellectual Radio.
brother God beside thee, and we stand here and bless your name.
For you are worthy to be lifted up. Please receive our sincere worship. For you are the mighty God we serve. All the earth proclaim. The mighty God we serve. We serve a mighty God, mighty God. Let the angels bow down. Let heaven and earth adore him, yeah. God we serve. What a mighty God we serve.
The creator of all things, there is no other God beside thee, and we stand here in reverence to your name.
For you are worthy to be lifted up. Please receive our sincere worship. For you are the mighty God we serve. All the earth proclaim. The mighty God we serve.
We serve a mighty God.
Mighty God we serve.
Oh, let angels bow before. Let heaven and earth adore. We serve a mighty God.
We serve.
We serve a mighty God.
God we serve. Holy, magnificent God. There's no one beside thee. Let us see His majesty. Magnificent God, you're worthy.
All right. Welcome back. Welcome back to Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette. And I am your host, Annette Harris. Thank you so much for joining us and listening on today. And again, a happy Love Day. Happy Valentine's Day to each and every one of you on today. I love that you're watching Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette, and I appreciate you, whatever plans you have on today or this weekend. I pray that you would enjoy it to the fullest. Celebrate sensibly and safely. Enjoy your loved ones. We're back on the phone. I do have Chris Davenport, the host and founder of Vibes. And you should catch Vibes. I'm going to see if Renee can put a link to maybe your website or some place in our live feed so individuals can make sure they connect with you as well, Chris. You know, before I go back to that clip, I want to do this. I said today that I wanted to push and promote our networking page, Chris. Maybe you can help me out with this too. We have collaborated, Chris Davenport and I have collaborated to get a networking page on Facebook. Now, this is, of course, this is the brainchild, and I like to give credit where it's due. It's the brainchild of Demetria Brand Triplett. She is my assistant, a virtual executive assistant. She said, you know, as we were planning this series for this month, she said, how about we do a networking page? And I say, you know what, that is something because it's some place to start. Okay. And I think that as we were going on, Chris, thoughts in my mind just grew about how I wanted this page to be. And I know the both of them were probably like, oh, she keeps throwing these messages in this thread. What is it? But it was just as my thoughts kept coming, this is kind of what I envisioned it. I asked Chris if he wouldn't mind with his organization to join in with Mind, Body, and Soul. So the name of the page is, and I believe I did put a link to it. And if I did not, Demetria, if you would do that for me, if you are on listening, the name of the page is called A Networking with Vibe. Okay, it's another play off of my name, Annette. A Networking with Vibes. And what we want to do here on this networking page, we want to encourage our African American entrepreneurs, our business owners, the ministries, those who are authors, those who are recording artists, whatever you have, the Lord has blessed you to begin, or you're trying to start up something. I want you to get your website. I want you to get your whatever information that you can put on there for us to be able to contact you, because the one one thing I thought that I wanted to have. I want this networking page to be a hub. I want it to be a hub for individuals. You know how sometimes when you see on Facebook, individuals will ask for recommendations. They'll ask, does anybody have a recommendation for a photographer? So I want this networking page to be a recommendation hub for African Americans, okay, for the entrepreneurs, for the business owners. And this is how I think we can start off what we're talking about. So this networking page is going to be, we're trying to be pragmatic, deal sensibly with what we are talking about. So it's an example of what we're talking about on these sessions. So Demetrius, I see you on here. She's an awesome recording artist. I need you to go to a networking with vibes. Put your information. Where can they find Demetrius Hunt? If someone is doing a conference, and I know you've sung at many conferences, Demetrius, they need a recording artist or someone to come in and sing for them. They can go to a networking vibes with a networking with vibes, and they can see the list. They'll see Demetrius Hunt there. Oh, let me contact her and see if she's available. So this is what I envision. This is what I want to have happen so that we can start supporting one another like we should, promoting one another, pushing for one another. I know of an awesome photographer, Brandy McCord. I believe she already put her information there, of quantum imaging photography. So this is what we want to do. I want, and it's just what I just have in mind, and hopefully it can take off, however the Lord wants to, the direction he wants to take it. Chris, did you want to say something about that networking page before we move forward?
Absolutely. I think it's just a great idea for us to put into action what we're talking about. I think a lot of times, like you said, we've got these great ideas and we have these conversations about what we need to do, but we don't actually put anything practical or pragmatic, right, in place to make it happen. So no, I'm excited about it. I'm excited to share my resources. I'm excited to see what resources other people have. I think I think Brandy said it in one of the comments. It's selfless, and so
yes,
I'm not stingy with my resources, and we shouldn't be. You know what I mean? And that's how we build. So no, I'm excited.
Amen. Beautiful, beautiful. And this will be a good segue into the remainder of this video that we were listening to. Why don't Black people support Black-owned businesses? So if my producer can get that ready, and then we can finish the rest of that video clip. Take a listen.
Poor, and the people there are so angry and so frustrated that place has become a war zone overrun by drug activity. Will you protest for that economic injustice? Well, I conceived of and conducted the empowerment experiment, hoping that if we shared this story with you, you would do just that. And it was tough living like that. It was tough and fearful, being called a racist, a Nazi, or the other N-word, dealing with death threats and hate mail, just because I decided for 1 year to do this experiment to explore the possibility of using my buying power to help my economically deprived community. It was humiliating taking CBS News and PBS NewsHour through the Black areas of Chicago, trudging through all of that economic deprivation and all that social decay. Every face we see Black, watching the correspondents and camera crews shake their heads as we go store to store, door to door. Hi, we're doing a story on Black businesses. May we meet your owner? Blocks and blocks, sometimes miles, dozens of businesses without engaging a Black proprietor. It hurt as a Black woman to see that. And I know I hurt some feelings to show that. But I really hoped that that year would bring you in and take you there and show you things that you may not want to see, but you needed to see and hopefully really wanted to understand. I wanted you to see Jordan. I met this pretty little girl during that year. I would not have met Jordan or gone anywhere near where Jordan lives, Bronzeville on the south side of Chicago, had it not been for that year. Bronzeville is a dilapidated area, lots of crime, drugs, depression. Still, our young Jordan wanted to build a children's clothing store in Bronzeville. And she did, with her mom and her grandmom and her grandfather's life savings. They called it Jordan's Closets. And it was the most beautiful children's store I've ever seen. They had, on Saturdays, they would invite little girls from the community for tea parties and book clubs. And on Sundays, her mom would host, for teenagers in the community, modeling classes and a charm school. What a gem for Bronzeville. What a great place for me to spend my money. What a wonderful role model for the kids there. Jordan's Closets is closed. Another abandoned dream. Another destroyed dream in an abandoned space. And so it is in Bronzeville. Destroyed dream after destroyed dream. Abandoned space after abandoned space. These are the businesses that I supported during the empowerment experiment. All of them are gone. I did this year because the lack of economic and business power in the Black community is the single most salient, destructive, and self-perpetuated problem the Black community faces, and still the most ignored. Our buying power, our businesses have always empowered and improved our community. But now, in an integrated society, somehow we're supposed to live without all of that. Somehow we're supposed to survive without the businesses and the buying power. In the early 1900s, shortly after emancipation, believe it or not, Black businesses, the Black community had amassed great business power. We had Black Wall Street. We had hospital systems, transportation systems, hotel chains, grocery stores, all kinds of businesses and professionals thrived. Hundreds of millions of dollars were created and circulated in the Black community. Unemployment was statistically insignificant. The unemployment gap between whites and Blacks in this country only widened in 1960 at integration. After slavery, more and more Black towns became self-sustaining until integration or until they were burned down by racists. Vibrant neighborhoods were bombed, set on fire, then looted. These people had their homes and thriving economic thoroughfares burned to the ground because they endeavored to be self-sustaining. Over 90% of the lynchings of Black men that happened during Jim Crow and Reconstruction were of business owners. What an awful paradox. We had, when we were politically disenfranchised, we had economic power. We took that economic power for granted because we needed to fight for our civil rights. Now we're politically free, but economically insignificant. That's a tough trade-off to make. Martin Luther King thought about that trade-off. Martin Luther King wasn't just fighting for basic human rights. He fought for Black businesses too. In a public address that he gave the day before he died, he said this: "We got to strengthen Black institutions. I want you to take your money out of the banks downtown and put your money into Tri-State Bank. We need to have a bank in. You have 6 or 7 insurance companies in Memphis. Put your insurance there. We need to have an insurance in." Dr. King died asking us to support these businesses, and we didn't, and they're gone. Those banks and insurance companies were the backbone of the Black community, and they're gone now. Now I'm asking you, how does that make you feel? Black or not, as Americans, how does that make you feel? Do you wonder, like I do, what would have happened had those businesses thrived? Do you wonder what Detroit would look like now if we had those banks and insurance companies? So I ask you, what are we going to do about that? Dr. King wondered, what would you do? And he didn't know, just like I don't know. He said this: "Many white Americans of goodwill have never connected bigotry with economic exploitation. They have deplored prejudice, but tolerated or ignored economic injustice." Dr. King said that. Now, this is what they say about our Black Year. They say that we illuminated the roadblocks faced by Black businesses in this racially divided economy, that this book will appeal to students of economics and sociology and anyone looking for inspiration to affect positive change in their community. How's this for inspiration? I did an hour-long interview on C-SPAN, and I took that time to mention this paper company called South Coast Paper that I support when I go to Office Max. I told everyone about the 60 people that have jobs that would not be there otherwise in Birmingham and South Carolina had it not been for this Black-owned paper company, and had it not been for Office Max taking a chance on this Black-owned paper company. C-SPAN tells me is one of the most popular segments. They ran it against the Republican National Convention, me against Congressman Ryan, and people watch me. But the good news about that story, well, the better news about that story is that Office Max and South Coast Paper reported that their 800 number and their website were flooded by consumers looking for that paper. Twice a week, I leave my pristine suburb and I go to the west side of Chicago to go to Forest Cleaners. Forest Cleaners is one of the few Black-owned businesses owned by one of the few Black-owned businesses in this all-Black part of town. James Forrest is the owner. My kids call him Uncle James. James has been there for about 3 years, and he just made his first hire, an orphaned teenage boy who has spent a lot of time in juvenile detention and foster homes. But this is a great kid, and Uncle James knows that. So he has taken him in, become a father figure to him, and is showing him the business. The west side of Chicago needs that cleaners. Those boys need Uncle James, and I am helping Uncle James help those boys by supporting him during those 15 minutes a week.
All right.
Man.
It's kind of lengthy. You know, Demetria did, and I appreciate her putting the link for this video in there. This is good. I had him to stop it there because I think that this also links with what you were mentioning, Chris, about your children seeing you employ others that look like them. And that's kind of what she was ending with, talking about that Black-owned business on the west side of Chicago. And some may even know it who's from the west side of Chicago. You probably know about that one Black-owned business. But I think it's important. She was just saying, you know, many of the things we were mentioning already in this session. And what were your thoughts on that, Chris?
Man, there was so much, because like on a bigger spectrum, right? Like if you look at it, like it takes capital to make these things as big as they need to be, right? And like she was explaining, we have so much capital right within us, right within the community. So we can't pretend, even though we have problems within ourselves, we can't pretend that there isn't a systematic approach to making sure that the Black dollar is not spent within the Black community, right? So we aren't just, I don't want to pretend by any means that we're fighting only against ourselves, right? Because there's a huge picture to it. And like she explained with the Black Wall Street, it was an intentional, again, destruction to what happened there, right? I haven't heard stories about they destroyed themselves and made that go down.
Yes.
And made that fall apart. And so we have to understand that there's a PTSD from that as well.
Yes.
You know, and from the other stuff that we've experienced that, you know, we could go into for hours, but, you know, we understand that there's a mentality, that there's a self-esteem issue. We understand that these issues prevent us from reaching that point. But again, I think what our elders saw, and the way that they viewed life, even though that they were in harsh situations back in slavery, they looked at the next generation as a way to fix it. It was selfless. My life is this. This is what my life is going to be. But my children, but the future, but my grandchildren, what do I want them to experience? And so they put certain things in place to see that happen. And if we aren't doing that, then we're going to see the same thing revolving around. And so I thought it was great what she was saying.
Thank you. Beautiful comments. Thank you for that. And you were kind of bringing me back full circle to the early comment that I read from Minister Felix. There was a question that was asked, because he started off his comment by mentioning that Black people don't trust each other enough to pull their money together and open a franchise. There was a question on the floor from Kamitra's Hunt, and she says, where do you think the distrust comes from? What do you think?
I think it comes from, and it stems from several places, like we were just explaining a second ago. You know, there are certain systematic mentalities that have been implanted in our everyday being, in our everyday life, right? And just to lay it out there, because I'm a man of faith, I think a lot of our distrust comes from our distrust in Him, right?
I agree.
I always say, what's for me is for me. It's not a selfish thought, but it's a confidence that no matter what you do, no matter how you treat me, no matter how you overplay me, no matter what you do behind my back, I'm going to succeed. It's going to work because it's so. So I can approach a business situation with somebody that Brandy may have said, Chris, now I don't really like him, but I can approach that situation with confidence going forward, right? Because I know who I am. I know who I serve. I know what I do. And so it takes faith. It takes faith. Our elders had huge faith.
True.
To make it through the things that we did. And so I think that distrust is a distrust in self, right? I trust myself to have great discernment. I trust myself to make great decisions because I'm being led. So if you allow yourself to be led by the right thing, then there's certain aspects that you don't have to spend your time worried about. We can act instead of doing so much talking and thinking. Right? It got to a point, even in what I was doing with Vibes, where God was just saying to me, okay, Chris, you talked enough about it. Now do it. You know, like you got enough plans together. We will never be at a point where we can say, okay, Black folks, we ready now. Let's attack. That's not going to happen. That day will never come. It's got to start with people like her who sacrificed that time with her mother to put out this video. It'll take people like you who choose this route over tons of other careers you could be doing. It's talented, you know, there's millions of things you could be doing other than this right now. But it's intentional for you.
All right now, don't you make me cry up in here. No, I'm just kidding. No.
Share a few.
Share a few. But no, I like that. The distrust is in self. And you also said we should act instead of talking and thinking. And I think that is such a good point you brought up, because we can talk all day long, we can think all day long, but until we actually do something about it, that is when it starts. We can start to make a difference. We can start there. And it's just so important. Hopefully we can get this across to everyone that's listening on today. And let me see other comments here. Minister Felix says, why we should study what the Black barbershop does. What their culture is. That is the only place besides church where Blacks continuously, I can't talk, spend their money and time. And he is so accurate that, you know, when you sit and think about it. What was that?
And the beauty salon.
True. And the beauty salon. That is so true. Because, yeah, that is where, I mean, every week, come on now, you know, every week we're in a beauty shop. And, you know, there are some. Now, I will say this, as far as the nail shop is concerned, I have an African-American manicurist that I go to, and an African-American pedicurist that I go to. And they have their own businesses. So I'm, you know, many people just kind of go into these other shops of different cultures, and this is where they're spending their money. And it's like everybody, and it's crowded up in there in those other cultures.
Yep.
It is crowded.
How many of those do you pass to get to the one you like to go to?
Exactly.
That you support.
You know, and I think sometimes they go there, maybe it's a convenience or what have you, or maybe they haven't. But, you know, I'm going to give a shout out to Sanctuary Owner that on Facebook. That's my manicurist. That's where I go to get my nails done. Nicole Chapman is her name. So we'll make sure she put her information up as well. But yeah, that is so true with the Black barbershops, the beauty shops, as you say as well. This is where we always spend our money and our time. Always.
That's for two things go with that, right?
Yes.
One, we care so much about how we look. We're going to spend our money to do that. And we're the only people that can do ours the way we like it.
Yes.
Right. So that's going to be a place that we're always going to spend money. Another reason why those barbershops and beauty salons are places that we gather that way is because there's transparency there.
Yes.
What barbershop don't you go in or beauty salon? You're going to hear some business. You're going to get your tea ready and get your pinky finger out because it's going to be tea today.
Right.
Or it's going to be a collaboration of sorts, right? I don't know. When I'm looking for something, I'm going to go to the shop first. If I need tires, I'm going to the shop and I'm going to ask the barbers who got tires. If I need, that's where I'm going.
Okay.
And so that's the same thing. Like what we're trying to create with and networking with Vibes is we need a place that's open that way.
Yes. Definitely.
And that we support the same way. You know,
True.
People go out of their way for what they want. It's all convenience is almost an excuse. Well, not almost. It is an excuse because, like you said, you drive past probably 20 little Asian shops to go to the shop you go to.
Correct. And I'm intentional though of where I spend my money.
Right.
Intentional. And she does a great job.
And I think that's something that Brandy had brought up too was, you know, a bad customer service experience. And I wanted to touch on that because think about this. You go to McDonald's or wherever you go and they make your food terrible, right? You don't go on social media and blast Long John Silver or McDonald's, right? But let old Dusty's make your food bad. You're going to be on social media talking about them. Oh, don't go there. They crappy. But why wouldn't you take a step back to the manager and have a conversation? Call up the owner and have a conversation because they're reachable. They actually care what you think half the time, you know?
Right.
You could blast White Castle and they wouldn't care what. It doesn't matter because y'all still going to spend your money there.
True.
And that's that lack of support. That's that. Now you put a tick in my mind. And I'm like, man, I don't know if I want that either. We verbally kill each other without a conscience.
Right. And I think that's probably sometimes what I kind of mentioned in my pre-show on today. You know, don't just look at if you have a bad experience with one African-American business and thinking that they're all going to be the same. So, I can go on over here to this other culture. And I'm trying to say it nice as best I can today. I can go over to this other culture and they're going to treat me fine. I'm not going to get that out of them. Well, I mean, it goes both ways. It really does. And yeah, so don't, again, let that one bad experience, discourage you from supporting other African-American businesses or organizations or what have you. Everybody's not the same. And you could also do what Chris just mentioned. If you did have a bad experience there, go and talk to the manager. They're accessible. I'm sure they are. And, kindly tell them about what was going on. I believe that, let's see, there was a situation, I believe, last summer. One of my cousins went to an establishment, African-American owned establishment. And I believe that the workers weren't attentive and or doing what they were supposed to have been doing. And the situation, happened there. And I believe that their child was actually like slightly burned by some of the when they had the pans out, and had the little something got on the child or whatever. So they were very upset, but they went ahead and left. Well, another family member talked to them and said, well, no, you need to go back and talk to them and let them know exactly what happened. I mean, number one, you don't want it to happen to anybody else, but then maybe they just weren't aware of what that one worker did. You know what I mean? And it could just be something that could be addressed and taken care of, and then don't give them a bad name. Like you said, we'll go and just rat them out, but then we'll just drive on over to McDonald's and just, keep buying stuff from there where our African American restaurant will suffer and then eventually, unfortunately, close. So I think communication is the key. And again, we're talking about being intentional on today. Let me read this comment here on Facebook Live. Brandy says, you can't always blame a Black young person for wanting to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, earn their way, and separate themselves to be successful. Not everyone lives in a community that is nurturing to community of help and success. Some people are living toxic environments that would eat them alive, kill them, or send them to prison if they stayed trying to connect with community. Okay. Yes, this is good. Minister Felix says that distrust is taught generation after generation. I would agree with that. And let's see here. Hopefully I'm not missing anybody's comment. My producer, he made a comment on today. I want to read that. He says, most of us are not going to stop shopping where we shop or spending money where we spend money, but at least say something. Oh, what we were just talking about. Whenever I spend money where I don't see people working who looks like me, I ask to speak to the manager. I tell them I love shopping here, but it really does bother me that I don't see anyone working here who looks like me. Just that alone, I think, would make a difference. I have done this and gone back to see people working there who looks like me. That's good. That's a very good point.
Absolutely.
I like that as well. Because he's right. We're going to shop when we want to shop. We're going to spend our money where we're going to spend, but speak up, communicate. Maybe you can make a difference even in you talking to the management. That's actually a very, very good point. Dr. Hill says, this is good. Thank you, Dr. Hill. And Brandy says, it's a selfless venture to bring us together, promote, and connect with each other. And I love you guys for it. Oh, well, thank you, Brandy. I often say this every once in a while on some of my shows. Brandy she's a pusher. A pusher in a good way. Brandy is one that will promote you. She will push you. And it doesn't matter what race with her. This is just how she is. And actually, a lot of I see what she does on Facebook and other forms of social media, and it actually motivates me to do it. You know what I mean? And that's one thing I've known about her from the moment that I've met her to now. She has not changed. This is how she is. Now, just a little plug. That's the young lady I was talking about. That's an awesome photographer. Quantum imaging. Brandy McCord, thank you for that comment. And let's see here. Another comment she has, one of a racist's greatest fear is that our communities turn our dollars completely inward. Actually, any of the Asian, white, or otherly hued business owners' biggest fear. And that's something to think about.
Mm-hmm.
What do you want to say to that comment?
She's absolutely right. And that goes back to that part that I was speaking about, where we can't deny the systematic approach to making sure that our money is spent where it's spent, right? The advertisements that are placed, the commercials, commercials are placed on TV based on demographics, based on, there's an algorithm to what neighborhoods get what commercials and advertisements placed in. So it's definitely on purpose. And if you look at how things go, what we start becomes popular and then commercialized. So they don't want us to buy it from each other until they start selling it. Because we won't, but they're allowed to do it because we won't buy it until they advertise it. I put up a post the other day. Don't wait until people blow up to support them.
Come on now.
The growth.
What did you just say? Say that again.
Don't wait until people blow up to show your support. Show your support during the growth.
Another simple yet profound statement. Don't wait for people to blow up to support. And we've seen that even in starting our own foundations and organizations. I'm sure you've seen that too, Chris, as you were starting up. When I first started off this radio show, I had so many people to shun me. and to not even listen to my show. I would at the beginning when I because it's been 4 years, going on 5 years this year. When I first started out, I gave out like little notes, letting people know where they can find me. That I started this radio show, and people they looked at me, funny, gave me funny looks, and they did not support me. They didn't, and you would be surprised where that came from, Chris.
I know where it came from.
Yes.
I know where it came from.
Right.
Because you jumping out of the box.
Yes. I suppose that's what it was. And I had to encourage myself, in the Lord. I had to realize, Lord, this is what you want me to do. So I have to move forward, whether I have to move forward, by myself or with a few supporters or what have you. Now I'm starting to see some of them come around. I'm not saying I'm all big, because I'm not, but I am starting to see, them come around. But the initial, they didn't want to have nothing to do with it. And it was almost like it was taboo. And it is when you talk about psychology and you bring it in talking about with the, the word of God or church or whatever, it's definitely taboo. And people are probably like, okay, what is she doing? She went and got in them books, and now she thinks.
Right.
But yes, don't wait for people to blow up to start supporting them. Support them during the growth. I like that. While it's going on. There are many different ones I see. Even Demetria Brand Triplett and Kenyatta, they're starting their own radio show, and it's entitled This Thing Called Life. I'm in there. This girl has been behind me and supporting me and pushing me. You think I'm not going to support her?
Right.
And not just because she has, but that's just how I am anyway. But I'm going to push. I'm going to promote. And I think that that's something that we need to make sure that we do. Brandy also says here, distrust may also come from the occasional intentional support of a Black-owned business or two that did not provide good service. And yes, we talked about that. Right. And what you can do, in regards to that, because I'm sure a lot of us have experienced it. I'm sure we have. Let's see, Milton Davenport is watching. Oh my goodness. How are you? I believe that's the senior one watching. Okay, good to have you on. Danger McFadden. Oh, she's plugging Nicole, my nail tech as well. Shout out to her as well. Roxanne, thank you for joining us on today. Carla Thomas, thank you for watching. Kanan Davenport, thank you for watching. Tracy Kincaid, Michelle Cook Hall, that's an author in and of herself, an evangelist, awesome woman of God. Michelle Cook Hall. Tracy Kincaid has her own foundation as well. You all make sure you go over to the networking page and put your information there. A networking with vibes. The link is here in this live feed. We want to make sure we get this together. Tanja Clements, thank you for watching, my sister. Appreciate you. Cassandra, my old childhood friend, thank you for watching as well. Let me make sure I'm not missing anyone else and their comments. Kamitra says, as business owners / organizations, we must be accountable for our behavior and or response when a customer isn't satisfied. I like this. This is good too. For example, if I come to your restaurant and the service is bad and I mention it to management, but management doesn't apologize or take any responsibility, I likely won't be back. And that is a good culmination to what we were just talking about. If you go, you had a bad experience or what have you, and you go and you say something, and then if the management doesn't do anything, like for instance, my producer mentioned about when he goes into, the different businesses, and then he'll go and mention, hey, I would love to see someone my that looks like me here. And if they don't do anything, how are we going to react? Or I'm sorry, the management itself. If you're in management, this is what she was talking about. This is your business. This is your organization. You need to know how to respond as well, because, one thing I've always learned, even in dealing with the public, it's always been said, people don't always agree with this. The customer is always right. That's what I've heard coming down through the years. But we do have a responsibility as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as is those who, we have our own ministries. We do have a responsibility in our responses to individuals who maybe had a bad experience or what have you. What do you want to say to that, Chris?
I totally agree. I totally agree. And not only a responsibility, it's an accountability, right? To what you serve, right? An accountability to the bigger picture. So if you know that you're a Black business owner and you know the statistics of Black business owners and you know the stigma that Black business owners have, then you have an obligation, a responsibility, an accountability to hold to that business, to that culture. And I think a lot of times we're so focused on we're so focused on my goal, my mission, myself, like that is almost sickening, because that's how you will come in and you're a business owner. So which means that you're already blessed, right? So you own a small restaurant and you got the worst attitude ever. A customer comes to you and tells you that they've had a problem, and your answer is so, like it's rough when you get bad service from your own people. It does breed a distrust. It does breed a disdain, a resentment for it. And I think the reason, like I mentioned earlier, that we'll go and post it on social media instead of McDonald's is because genuinely we're hurt.
Right.
And more offended because of you. So if your customers are holding you to a higher accountability, obviously, then you have to hold yourself to one.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, yeah, they are really, really commenting on here. Minister Felix, I'm going to get to the rest of your comments. He says he has to go. He probably has to get back to work. We do appreciate you. Thank you so much. And let me scroll on down because he also says, Minister Felix, we have issues tearing down our own to elevate oneself. It almost seems like y'all be talking, right? I mean, you'll say one thing and then I'll read it and he would put it up on here, Chris. You all think so much alike.
We do. That's why I had him with me.
I see. And then he has in parentheses Willie Lynch. And if many of you don't know about that, you need to look that up. We are taught that by media and by our families. We also should, as Blacks, seek to provide a better quality than anyone else, because we have to work that much harder to maintain and sustain it. We expect more from each other, yet we don't pour into each other. I mean, he said a mouthful right there, because the reality of it is that God, blessings to you, Apostle Phillips, all the way from Kenya, listening or watching us live. We appreciate you on this afternoon. It is what it is. We have to own up to it and realize that it's harder for us. So we have to put extra effort into it. Just like they say, even if you own your own business, you have to put more work into it because it's your own. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it seems like you're doing extra in this. So sometimes as African American business owners and entrepreneurs, we do have to put that extra into it. And we have to make sure that we are on point. Our product is there, because we don't really get the chance and the opportunities that other cultures would. So we got to be on 10. We got to put our best foot forward. He was saying this here, and then also, it's that much work, that much harder to maintain and sustain it. And then he also said at the end, we expect more from each other, yet we don't pour into each other. What do you want to say on that comment? Because this man has been preaching all day long.
I agree with him. I mean, and like you said, he's basically hitting right on what we're talking about. And that's just, I like that he said provide a better quality product, right? Because being the same isn't going to cut it, because we don't have I'll call it the withal, the stick-to-itness to seek out those products. And so maybe if we as a people can make sure that our product is superior, that our product is of a quality, that our service, like we just talked about, is of a quality. I go to places that I like not because of the food all the time. It's even a barber. Me and my brother came there and talk about this all the time. There are hundreds and thousands of barbers, right? But people come to you as a barber because of you. They want to come talk to Kay the barber. They don't want to come, it's not about the haircut. So once we realize that it's bigger than the product, right? That's why people are so disappointed when it's getting bad service. It's bigger. Even the ones who aren't so-called woke and conscious about it, when they support a black business, they have higher expectations. So I believe he's definitely on point with that.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, so many more. Buddy Gill says here, okay, I've been in and out since I'm at work. And I'll say this without having read any of the previous comments and missing what's already been said. We as a people have done damage to ourselves because of the lack of integrity, high expectations, in parentheses, special favors. And, we see a lot of that. And therefore, lack of trust. We've been brainwashed to think that the white man or other ethnic groups provide or offer better quality or even better pricing. I wonder if we'll ever really recognize our power collectively. The other ethnic groups recognize it and they fear the day if it ever actually happens to us. And that goes along with what Brandy said earlier. I believe it was Brandy talking about the money. If we take our money inward, they're fearing that day. If we would wake up and realize they would be fearful of us. Brandy said, that's good, Chris. We need to strive for a higher level of excellence, not the same level as our counterparts. And Kanan says here, sometimes strangers will support more than your friends. Ooh, he said a word right there. That's true. And he says, people will watch and hope you fall or fail. That's what Kanan said. Oh, God, I'm trying to catch up with all these comments here. Brandy says, don't wait for people to blow up. Support them. The same statement you had. She says she's stealing that.
No problem, Brandy.
She's
if
stealing
anybody
it.
can steal it, she can.
Definitely. Buddy Gill says jealousy is a very big word. I agree. And
can I say something?
You can.
Jealousy and envy can look real similar, but mean two different things. Right?
Okay. Expound.
A lot of times people are just envious of the motivation of the fact that you actually did something that they wanted to do, right? But if we create, and I'm not making an excuse for it because some people are just haters. Let's not rule out the haters, right? But we're so quick to throw up the haters and, because he said something negative, he's jealous. No, he may be just envious. Give this guy a reason. Kay said it last week. I'm going to show you how to treat me. I'm going to show you how to love on me, right? So if I feel like you're envious, then let me just treat you great. It's no problem. Because again, you can't stop it. You can't interfere with it. You can't block it. So what am I stressed about? You're jealous. If you are jealous, it's going to push you further away from me because I'm treating you so well.
Wow. That's a good breakdown. I like that. I see you on here, Carol Walker. She's a certified trainer. And I'm seeing all you that are hopping on here who have your own businesses, you're entrepreneurs. Make sure you go to a networking with vibes because we want to have individuals to be able to go to, we're going to call this a recommendation page, a networking page, so that they'll know your services and they'll know, what they have to choose from. Elder Kevin McGee says we are one of the only races that distrust our own. I think I should read that again. We are one of the only races that distrust our own. It is true. It's sad, but it's true. It's true. We talked about the crab in a bucket spirit. Everyone talks about that. Rochelle Hawk is on. Thank you, my dear cousin, for watching. She has, I believe she's a director for Mary Kay. And so she, you can get your ladies, I think gentlemen too, your equipment that you need from Mary Kay. Rochelle, make sure you put your information on the networking with vibes. And who else? Who else did I miss here wanting to recognize? Buddy Gill also says here that he recalls an older gentleman that said to him, White people have realized that the only color that matters is green. He says here, we're still stuck on black and white.
Yeah,
What do you want to say to that?
I I think the fact that the fact that we have the only color that matters is green is the reason we have the problem we're talking about today. So I don't want to be like objective to what he said, right? Because I do understand the perspective that he was coming from, and so let me say I agree with that.
Okay.
But the fact that us as black folks, black people, only see the color green instead of the other way around. I might have to spend $2 more of my green to support what she's doing.
Okay,
We
so
don't
it's two
understand.
sides to it. It's two sides
That's what I'm
to that
saying.
statement.
100%, 100%.
Yeah, I would agree. I agree with both of you. It's definitely two sides to it. I think you're saying we focus too much on the green and saying it's too much green that we have to put out. And this is why we're having this issue now. And, he's mentioning that, white people or, even other cultures, but he said here, white people, they only focus on the green, and we're looking at the black and white and maybe how they don't help us or they hold us down. But we got to get beyond that.
Right.
We have to get beyond that. We can't use that as a crutch. Let's see, Apostle. Oh, I did acknowledge Apostle, watching from live from Kenya, Africa. And you know what? When I had Dr. Hunt on, Dr. Lord Michael Hunt, he talked about, in which actually was a beautiful segue into this series about the situation over in Africa, or how they view, um, tribes, and how they view family, and it was something there's something that we can definitely learn. We can definitely learn from what he mentioned, and how they even look at even the elderly, how they respect the elderly. All of this comes into play, all of it. And I'm just grateful when he was on, because he shared his experience when they had just come back from their wonderful mission trip over there. But it's a lot that we can learn, from our ancestors, even from those that are from Kenya, from Africa. It is definitely something that we can take into and apply to ourselves. Brandy says here, your responsibility to a culture that is trying to support their own. Did I read that already? Is
No.
paramount. Okay. Don't, as a Black business owner, feel like you are owed support from the Black community, but instead treat it as the privilege that it is for anyone to intentionally seek out your business to patronize. And that's another wonderful, she's given us these great viewpoints from the owner's point of view. And that's something that we definitely have to take a look at. Just like you said, you had to instruct your children, Chris, when you mentioned that earlier, about how not only, yes, you should strive for your own business organization, but then you should also support. And then she's bringing out the other aspect of when you do own, and how you should handle yourself. So this is very good comment there. Don't look at, okay, I have this Black owned business, so I'm expecting all of you Blacks right here on this block to support me. No, it is a privilege. I like that at the end. It's treated as a privilege that anyone intentionally seeks out your business to patronize. And then we can't stress enough to make sure that your business is on point. Don't give them no half stuff. Don't don't advertise, half this and half that. And if you are a caterer, your stuff is half cooked.
Right.
They're not going to come back to you.
I do think that we expect our friends and family and our close ones to support us. And when that doesn't happen, I do think that breeds a little bit of that mentality to us. That, man, even my closest ones wouldn't come out and support.
Right.
Because those are the ones who you would keep the criticism from. At least, hey, Chris, that salad wasn't right. I need you to put the right dressing on there, and I can take it from there.
Right, right. Definitely. Let's see here. Rochelle Hawk. She says, yes, you're right. I mentioned she deals with Mary Kay. She said the customer is right. We take care of our customers 100%. As a Black woman in Mary Kay, it's not always easy. Ah, that's interesting. That's good. I'm glad you brought that point out. Because even going back to go back to what my producer said, you're going to spend your money where you're going to spend it. Now we know that the owner of Mary Kay is not Black, but this is a Black-owned woman she's a director within that organization, and so she says it's not always easy in what she's doing, but that's just something to keep in mind there. Thank you for watching, Cousin Carnett. I see you on. Brandy says, that's good, Chris. We need to strive for a higher level of excellence, not the same level as our counterparts. I think I read that earlier. I'm not sure if these comments are coming back up on here. Marcus Hill, thank you for watching. Demetra says, as a business owner, we must remember we are our brand. Pun intended, not our products. Or maybe I should say pun not intended, whichever. Her maiden name is Brand. That's why I said that. Elise Irons DeBose, thank you for watching. Maysola, thank you for watching. Coming on, Bretta, we appreciate you. Latoya, thank you for watching. I think I mentioned you earlier. Michelle Thomas, let's look at this because she has a comment here. She says, I disagree with the statement that white people only look at the green. She says, as a Black individual, you can barely go into a white store without being profiled and followed throughout the store. Her sister just experienced this. I think we all do. This proves that distrust of a people isn't just Black against Black, because all races share an abundance of distrust. You could comment on that, Chris.
I agree with her.
Okay.
I think she was looking at it in a different context too. In the context she's talking about, I think she's absolutely right about it not just being a Black on Black thing, as far as only caring about other races don't care about color when it comes to money. They will take your money. This is why they set up stores within your community. They don't, and they'll live in the store. So not only are they owning the store in your community, but they live in your community, right? And still don't put money into your community. So no, they don't care about color. They care about green. Right? We should care about color to some extent, right? I don't want to. Nothing should be exclusive. Right. We have to create an inclusive society, no matter what. But again, going back to intentional, if we see that this is a problem that we aren't properly represented, then what are we going to do about it?
Yeah, I agree. And thank you for saying that. Of course, this is African American History Month, and you said, why is she talking so much about African American history, African American entrepreneurs, business owners? Well, we're in this month. We're focusing on this. We're trying to get you to thinking. This is not to exclude, other races, because again, you're going to spend your money where you're going to spend it. We're trying to encourage you to support your own more or better than what we do. Some are doing it, but we want to encourage you to do it and or do it better. Were you going to add something, Chris?
Yeah, just one thing on what I believe Brandy was saying about you are your brand. I think me personally, I'm turned off by businesses, right? If I know you own a brand, I know that you're supporting a certain product or a certain community organization, right? And I follow your business page, and you're doing tons of great things. But personally, right, you're just nasty and distrustful and angry and you represent your brand everywhere you go. So I've been in situations where stuff has happened to me. I'm not doing anything with Vibes. I'm just out on my own with the wife, but I happen to have on a Vibes t-shirt. I can't even react the way I want to because I know that I'm representing my brand. And the more your face gets known or whatever, that's not what you're speaking, but the more you're known, the more you know. These corporations know. we represent a brand, which is why they'll sue you if they use their brand on anything else, because they want it to represent a certain thing. So if your brand, if your company is you, which it should be, then you should be willing to represent that at all times.
Definitely. Definitely. Brandy is loving you on
today. Even a job
today.
application, they're going to go look at your Facebook page before they hire you.
That's true. And that's something to think about. That is really something to think about. You know, gotta watch what we put on these Facebook pages.
Yeah, you can't say you can't find a job, but all you post is drugs and weed on your social media pages, because they're gonna go look.
Right.
Represent your brand. Your name is a brand.
Definitely. I would totally agree with that. And, you know, because social media is so widespread now, like you said, that's their way of checking you out. That's their way of saying, are you, you know, you crazy?
Right. And another point, generationally, we took pride in our last names.
Yes.
As far as Black history went. Like other races, they know their lineage. They know, you know, they know what their family's about. They have family crests. They have family seals. They have things that represent their history, right? And so if all of our families are creating this, when we start collectively coming together, now we're mixing the history of what we all have to create something new.
Yeah, I like that. Let's see here. Brandy says, one of my favorite Black caterers, I just had to let go because of all the venom and negativity she always daily spewed on her FB page. You know what? There you go, right there. You know, people, they're watching, because I guarantee you, when you all go to a Networking with Vibes page and put your information there, websites or what have you, they're going to start following you. They're going to see what you're doing. They're going to see what you're saying. Because, you know, people, when it comes to money, again, people don't just want to throw their money out to the wolves, or I'm just going to do it just because you're Black. I don't care what you do. I'm going to close my eyes to the negative stuff that you're doing, but I'm still give you my money. No, people are not, in general, people are not like that. So it's important that you, what's the term we're talking about with branding?
Use some tact.
Yes.
That's what my mama used to say. Have some tact.
Exactly. You know, how you present yourself is very important, you know, and they always say first impressions last.
You only get one.
Ongoing impressions last. Mm-hmm. All of that. So you know what I think I want to do right now? I want to segue. Elder Kevin McGee does have a poem, and he just put up a comment. Yes, we're going to play his poem now. That is in relation to today's topic. I want you to take a listen to this, and we'll be right back.
Someone had a dream, and the dream was for our people to survive, to thrive in a society where even in this new millennium, we are still living an unbalanced life. I used to think it was us against the world, but my vision was not 2020, and I failed to see the problem in our own backyard. There was a time where the village stood together, sharing the wealth, but now the village has transformed into cities, bustling with things to do and not enough time to see about my brother, my sister, to make sure that they are making it. We have moved on up and got a piece of that pie that is the American dream. And as I rise, the logical choice would be to bring you along with me. But somewhere we develop that crab mentality where we can't let one another get too far ahead of us. And when we see them pulling forward, we must pull them back so that we may get there first. What happened? When did we grow into this? Instead of the crab, maybe we should become more like the ant. When we see a problem too great, we can call on our brother, our sister, and they will come and help to lift the burden and get the job done. Our Black businesses must thrive, must be supported, and we will not try to hold them back by convincing them to hook us up. and lower the price. Or I will go to the other persuasion, Caucasian and Asian. But listen, keeping money in our communities will keep money in our pockets, allow us to build havens for our children, community centers, cultural centers. See, we can't be satisfied with just a slice of the pie, but we're taking the whole thing because we are stronger together. So to quote a song from years ago, you are my brother, you are my sister, so take me by the hand. Together we will work until he comes. There is no foe that can defeat us when we're walking side by side. As long as there is love, we will stand.
Perfect. Perfectly written poem for today's topic. Chris, did you want to comment on that?
No. It was self-explanatory.
I can barely hear you. I'm sorry.
That was really self-explanatory there.
Yes.
That was heavy.
Yeah, definitely. Kaden says love. I guess it's almost like doing your snaps, huh?
There you go.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Elder McGee. That piece was on point for sure. Brandy says, sir, you are teaching Elder Kevin. That's great. Elder Kevin McGee does have his show on Saturdays. Make sure you all tune in, 12 noon Central Standard Time, to Connections. He makes the connections, and we'd appreciate him for what he does here, Mind, Body, and Soul. And let's go on here on Facebook Live. There were some other comments that I wanted to read. Buddy says here, when people see who you really are, they will believe you. And that's going back to what we mentioned about, what you put on your Facebook page, on your website, because people are going to research you and they're going to find out everything that they can about you. And they really should. Just like when I go online to order, clothing or what have you, I'm going to look at the comments. I'm going to look at the comments that are left about this product or what have you. I order typically from this Black-owned company called Ashro. Man, I just gave out all my information. But anyway, just don't come in my same space. No, I'm just kidding. No. And so I look at the comments on the products that I order, the clothing items, because I want to, I don't want to just throw my money out if it's a bad product or, the fabric or material is not good or it just doesn't look good, on anybody. I'm going to do my research. And I've done my research on the company. That's how I know they're Black owned. And Brandy also says here, they will research everything they can find out about you personally as well as your business. So it's key. It is key to make sure. This is also likened to, and I remember a story, a young man had went for a job interview, and this was probably back way before social media became so popular. He went on a job interview, slammed the interview, did a great job, went outside, got in his car to leave, and he turned on his music so loud and he started acting very wild, doing his thing when he got in the car. And he did not know that those that he had just interviewed with were watching him outside the window. Needless to say, he didn't get that job because they were looking at him. I forgot what position it was, but they were like, okay, you really should handle yourself in a better way. So that was their way of researching him out. Now, it's easily accessible with this social media. So please be careful what you put on there and what you allow others to see. This is, they're watching. They are definitely watching. And again, I think as African Americans, we do have to put our best foot forward and not give out subpar products or what have you. I want to say this real quick. Someone shared with me, I believe it was just on yesterday in my inbox, a video. Some of you may know about this video and some of you may not, but they shared with me and they said something about these two activists, young activists, African-American activists, found out that a candidate for governor that was running had a meeting with African-American preachers and pastors, right? So, but he had this meeting with them, it was like a secret meeting, was what they called it, a secret meeting. And they didn't, appreciate how it came about, how they even set up this secret meeting to meet with this candidate. You know how they, like, behind closed door, they're going to promise you different things if you support them, right? And so these two activists burst in on the meeting with their video cameras and everything, and it turned into an ugly scene. And I said to myself, this is why we can't get anywhere. Not that they burst in, how they did it. Now, how about you going in and, or talking to somebody that that, maybe that is in this meeting, talking to them outside. Why'd you have to have your cameras rolling like that and going and making a humongous, ridiculous scene? It was ridiculous. They were, because of course the attendees that were there wanted them to leave because they were trying to film and everything. And they're like, no, we're going to expose and why are y'all doing this under the table stuff or whatever? Yeah, a lot of that's being done. But the way you handle it, that's what I was upset about, was the way they handled it. I thought was very, very tacky. Now, you all can agree or disagree with me if you want, but I thought the way they handled it was very tacky. Nobody's going to really take them seriously. Now, you're going to come out here. You're going to be an activist for something else. You're going to come out here. I'm not going to pay attention to you because I saw how you did how you busted in that meeting so that they can hear what you had to say. You understand what I'm saying? You're a vigilante, or you're going to break this up because of, who are you? It bothered me the way they did it. It really did. And I just didn't agree with it. And I think, again, that's why we don't really get anywhere. We always are, fighting against one another and this, that, and the other. And so the way we do stuff is very important. It's very important. I know I have to wrap up. Oh my goodness, that time went by on me so fast on today. Chris, did you want to add anything else before we end?
Oh no, I really appreciate you having me on. This has been a great conversation, and I'm excited to see some changes. I'm excited to see the Ed Network with Vibe Stage grow. Like I say, if you guys just put your info there, list your businesses. We want to put what we're talking about into action in some way, in whatever way that we can. And so, man, it's all blessed.
Amen. Amen. Now, I know, Chris, you did have a call that you were going to call in today, but I'm not sure what happened with that. We kind of got to rolling with this, but maybe
we got a little off. It's okay though.
Maybe we can see if he can call in next week, and we will acknowledge them as well. We do have an in the studio guest on next week, Lasagna, and she, Alexander, she will be coming in. She started her own business, and we just kind of want to give examples. So that young man that you have will also definitely be great for next week as well. Thank you to all of you that are on Facebook Live for giving your comments. If I didn't get to your comment, charge it to my head and not my heart. We were just moving along here. I do appreciate you that are on YouTube and also on the station's website. So go to Get Caught Internet Radio, getcaughtinternetradio.com, so that you can catch up even on today's show. You can look back at this live feed if you like. We do appreciate you. Love you all for your time on today and your input. So until next time, I want you to get caught up with Annette.
You've just been listening to Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette, where your host, Annette Harris, provided you with psychological and biblical insight for your everyday concerns. Need more insight? Visit Annette's Facebook page at Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette. Don't forget, tune in next week for Mind, Body, and Soul with Annette. You've just